I was just like, why do I want to spend the rest of my life going and working for somebody else to build their kingdom just so their company gets bigger or they get wealthier because I'm making a widget or I'm doing this? It's like at the end of my life, I want to look back and say, did I help people? Did I make people's lives better? So when the opportunity came along to work for Ridge Project, I had never really considered this line of work before. And I just prayed about it, and it just made sense.
I am a man of honor, integrity, and promise. I pursue all righteousness. I love my family. I will not put my family in harm's way. There is nothing that will keep me from doing the right thing. I am an ambassador of hope and a man of discipline. I am a man worth following. I am a TYRO.
Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ridge Tijerina.
And I'm Cathy Tijerina.
And today we have not only a great friend of ours, but one who works here at the Ridge Project by the name of Chuck VanRenterghem.
A team member.
Hello.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
My pleasure.
We know your schedule is busy and full.
And we know you are a change agent, so it's hard to get you in the office and get you tied down to a time to say, okay, we're going to lock you down. We're going to get you here and talk about what you do and who you are.
Well, cool. Yep. I'm more of a boots on the ground kind of guy. I love to be out in the field, getting it done and interacting with people. So this is a treat to sit down.
So what do you do at the Ridge Project, Chuck?
Well, right now, project director for a Department of Labor grant. It's a federal grant that's focused on job training and employment. And it's all reentry focused. So we have a great workforce development curriculum. It centers around TYRO leadership and communication, workforce training, resume building, interview skills, connecting you with employers. So it's
that's
awesome.
A lot. So skills training?
Skills
like
training.
What kind of skills?
They're always for in-demand jobs. So depending on our target communities, that can vary. But typically right now, anything that's like the skilled trades are always in demand. Carpentry, welding, HVAC, construction, truck driving, industrial electrical.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a whole plethora of stuff.
Yeah. And they're good paying jobs.
Yeah.
These are, you can support your family on this kind of work.
So do you see society, the doors are opening for people with colorful backgrounds?
Absolutely.
And so there's more opportunity than was maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, 100%, especially with COVID. I mean, when your unemployment, is down to like 3%, people are desperate. Employers are desperate. And when COVID happened, it was even more desperate. And so they had to say, who can we go to? What population? We've already saturated the market with our help wanted. We've hit all the typical places, and there's nobody available.
So where do you think everybody's at? What happened to them? Because the people didn't disappear.
Did they retire? Did they?
That was a mystery I kind of had to wrap my head around. I think the best answer is a twofold answer. One is that during COVID, a lot of our more senior workers dropped out for health reasons. And they were like, I don't really have to have this job. If I'm more, vulnerable with my health, it's just not worth it to work. So they dropped out. And there was a lot of, people in their 60 plus that were still working. So you take them out of the equation. And I think the other thing is the gig economy.
The what?
Gig economy. So
What's
you
that?
get folks, 20s and 30s and beyond, but a lot of 20s and 30s where rather than work a job for a boss, they become their own boss and they work multiple jobs. So they might do DoorDash during the day. They might be an Amazon driver. They might be.
So what's gig? I don't understand that.
Kind of like if you were a musician, you get a gig.
Yep.
So they got all these little gigs that add up
okay.
to their jobs. So they might say, hey, I worked at this company making $40,000 a year, but you know what? If I did this, this, and this on my own terms, I can replace that income and I don't have to work for anybody.
Yeah.
So those folks just dropped right out.
And that was a lot of people then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, we've traveled a lot and we happen to go to D.C. or Philadelphia or big cities like that, and we see nothing but people on scooters
yeah.
doing DoorDash, delivering all this food.
Yep. Weaving in and out of traffic.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. So you think about all those folks, they're not working for the big box stores and in the office buildings. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So that
on their own
leaves
times
a vacuum for us to fill with some good folks.
We all start somewhere, with questions, doubts, and the unknown. But growth begins when you take that first step, when you seek the right guidance. Through insights, self-reflection, and real-world experience, you will build the skills necessary to become someone worth following. It's about overcoming your past and embracing the person you're destined to become. Growth begins with you. Empower your future with TYRO.
Why'd you get into this work? So what's your background? Like, so as you went through, were you going to college and saying, man,
Are you a convict, sir?
One day I want to work with people that are incarcerated and train them for job skills and get them.
How did you happen to find yourself?
Was that your college dream?
I went to college because Dad said I should go to college.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do, did communications, got into food service because my dad was a chef for Marathon Oil, headquarters in Ohio. And so I've always kind of been around entrepreneurial spirit. Our families had multiple businesses. And so I was in food service. I've done economic development. I've worked for nonprofits that do like downtown business planning and so forth. And it's like I got to a point in my life that with my personal faith, I was just like, why do I want to spend the rest of my life going and working for somebody else to build their kingdom just so their company gets bigger or they get wealthier because I'm making a widget or I'm doing this? It's like at the end of my life, I want to look back and say, did I help people? Did I make people's lives better? So when the opportunity came along to work for Ridge Project, I had never really considered this line of work before. And I just prayed about it and it just made sense. Because at the same time, you know, we were doing Bible studies with our church, our local church. And I told my wife, I'm like, I don't want to sign up for one more small group. I said, I'm so sick of sitting around a table reading about what we're supposed to do. I said, when are we going to get out and do it?
That's a good word.
And I'm telling you,
wow,
it didn't take long. It was probably within a month of me feeling that way that I found out about this. And I was just like,
so what did you come and do here? Now you're working as a project director for a grant that we have.
Huge project.
A huge project, but that's not what you signed up for. So what was it?
What did I sign up for?
Your first day of work now. What am I doing?
No, so it was my food service background. So I was working at the time for a food service manufacturing company. So I was developing recipes, scaling them up to a large scale for food production. And you needed somebody here. We had a farm to table culinary program for reentry, and you needed help. So we had the Carnicue food truck, which was like a fusion of Mexican barbecue.
Oh yeah, that was good,
and it was awesome.
It was awesome.
I came in and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sink my teeth into this and just go. Roll up my sleeves.
You didn't come in as a chef. You came in as almost a project director overseeing that, or how did that work?
No, you needed somebody to like make it work.
Make it work.
And so I just came into it and I looked at what was there and what the time we had, and I just kind of assessed it. And I'm like, all right, grab the bull by the horns and like, let's just go.
So we didn't give you a sinking ship though, did we?
Not that one. Not that one. But another program, as we were phasing out that program, because being in the middle of nowhere and organizing all the transportation to get all of the participants here, because nobody had a car,
right?
Yeah. And so it was
nobody had a car.
Yeah, it was a great program, but we couldn't scale it.
Yeah.
And so when we said, okay, what do we need to focus on? And so we were focusing on job development, which was more offsite.
Right.
And I remember when the project director of that project left, and we were just getting off the ground, we were still in the planning period, and we were struggling. And I remember Chuck coming in, and you said, hey, Chuck, you're getting a promotion. You can be project director. and Chuck was like, okay, over what? And we just put all this stuff in front of him.
How many years was that ago?
A decade.
10
so
years
he's
ago?
going through the timeline of implementation, and like he's like behind, not achieved, in progress. And he comes in, he says, okay, I accept this promotion with the understanding that you just handed me a sinking ship.
Yeah. and we never thought of it that way.
No, and so Ron looks at me and says, get bailing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm not necessarily proud of that. I will preface that by saying that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we overwhelmed you with love.
Yeah. But I've grown a lot here. I mean, I was at the arc of my career trajectory was just kind of flat. And I'd never been at a place like this before. And it's a good learning lesson because I think the Lord knew that, I needed to be challenged, but also in a place where you're supported. Because when a lot of times when you're in the workforce, people don't have your best interest in mind. And so they might give you a project and you're on your own. And so here,
sink or swim.
I kind of came into it with that because that's what I was used to.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. So, and I'm a very pragmatic person. I just kind of look at the facts and I'm hands-on and just kind of straightforward. So now that would not scare me to do that.
Oh, we know it won't scare you.
Yeah.
So you didn't know what you didn't know you were capable of doing, right?
Exactly.
And we are so grateful that we believe God sends us the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And our job is to just really turn on what's already there.
Yeah. You probably don't remember this, and I think it's okay to share. It's a good thing.
Go ahead.
But one of the things that you said to me when I think when we were doing the interview, and I was just very transparent. I'm not afraid to share how I feel and be honest with stuff. And you looked at me and you said, "It sounds like you need us more than we need you."
Oh.
Well, I do not remember that.
Yeah. And that was heavy because that kind of flipped it. I was, thinking, you have a help wanted, you need me.
Yeah.
But really at the same time, it's a relationship it's a trade-off. It's a back and forth. It's a relationship. It's not just
it should be win-win.
transactional, like I, do A and that's it.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
and
one
so
of the
you went
great
home
things.
being like, what?
What did he just say to me? Who's that guy think he is?
How dare you?
I also remember you saying when you got there, when you very first started, you said, I think Ron was more excited that he was offering me the job than I was. And I was like,
well, I didn't talk with my wife about it.
No.
I can still remember it. I was sitting on the porch and you'd call and you were like, hey, we want to offer you this job. And what do you think? And you were so excited. I was like, all right. And then I went upstairs and I told my wife and she's like, you what? And I was like, yep.
I'm quitting my job.
Quit my job. Gonna go work in the prisons.
Oh, man.
Surprise.
Well, so what's that like?
That's
Walking in your
awesome.
first penitentiary ever in your life. I've taken you to a few of them, but
It's about what you would imagine. On the one side, right? It's steel. It's a secure building. There's a heaviness to that. But going there though, when you don't, you have to not objectify people.
Yeah.
And that's what society in general, you objectify. Oh, it's a prison. These are prisoners. But when you start to see the faces and you hear the stories and you're going in there with something to share that is so beneficial and you see people light up and you see them respond and then you see them where they feel safe and they can smile and they're learning something that changes everything.
Yeah.
Dear son, it's been hard these last few years watching you grow up without me in the picture. Never taking the time to find out how you were or what was going on in your life. You're just a boy, I thought. You don't need me. I didn't need my dad. He was never around, I told myself. But I was wrong, son. I'm supposed to be a grown man. I was selfish. I was stupid. I was thinking of me, not you. If I could go back, son, and change things, I would. It's taken me all this time being selfish to finally grow up and realize I need to be a responsible man. That's what I finally learned, not from prison, but the TYRO program. It's all about becoming a better, stronger man. Wish I would have gotten it sooner. Everything looks different to me now. I'm a changed person. I know I need to be there for you now. It's not about me anymore. It's not about being cool. It's not about who I run with. It's about mom. It's about you. It's about being a better man, learning something new in my life. It's about being a TYRO, a man worth following. I'm your dad. You're my son, and I love you. I am a TYRO. I'm a TYRO. Dad.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
the time you've had here and the experiences that you've been able to have, not only with the Ridge Project, but with the people we're called to serve, what would you think would be a self-defeating, if you were to put it together, what have you seen that people do that is so self-defeating that, and then after you qualify that, what can you tell them to listen? This is self-defeating, but here's a remedy to that.
Like, I see this and you need to stop it. And this is how. Yeah.
I would say that the most common things, that I see would be a loss of hope. Like you have a general, I'm going to put them in the bucket of these are all self-defeating beliefs.
There you go.
Okay.
So these aren't true. It's just things that are self-defeating that I have seen people manifest. That bad thinking. So they have a loss of hope. I would say a loss, a lack of confidence, and self-doubt and anxiety. And so, like, to kind of fill those out a little bit more, like a loss of hope. You're working with a variety of different folks, and they could be, at a community correctional where they've only been there for 3 months, versus somebody that's getting out after 30 years. And so it's very different. So sometimes you can have an attitude of like, I feel hopeless. Yeah, this program's whatever, it won't work for me because that's not possible for me. They just have been so discouraged that they don't feel like they deserve to have hope. They're scared to have hope.
Scared to have hope.
Yeah.
Scared to have a dream.
That's heavy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Scared to believe that there's something better than this.
Right.
You've been beat down so much that now you've believed all the beat down that now you become your worst enemy. You beat yourself down. You don't need nobody else to beat you down.
That's a lot of beat ups.
That's a lot.
A lot of beat downs.
A lot of beat downs.
Dreams are scary because that means you're setting an expectation. And for a lot of folks, they just have never had a goal, a real serious goal in their life. And now I'm offering that to them for the first time. And then it gets real. And then you get scared and you're like, man, now I actually have a target that I'm supposed to hit and everybody's going to know if I don't hit it. That's embarrassing. I'm scared. What's my family going to think of me? And that's that doubt, that self-doubt and general anxiety. Confidence. People say, there's always the I can'ts. Like, well, I can't do this because fill in the blank. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't have a GED. I never had anybody in my family ever have a job. So I can't. And they let that past or somebody else's past define what they believe their future is. So, So in general, I would say those are the most common.
So how do you empower them to okay, so that's where your thinking is now. Now we're going to help you have a breakthrough.
I'd say the number one thing, and I think we teach this in TYRO Jet, is you have to know your why. Like there's a lot of other things, and I can rattle them off real quick, but like the big motivator, and no matter what you do, is know your why, because you can't have it be just for the money.
Right.
Or for the title. Those things don't last. Money you spend, there's never enough money. Titles can change. You got to know your why. And that will pull you through the rainiest days, the gloomiest places, the scariest places, if you know what you're doing it for. So, it might be, I'm doing this because now I realize that I have children and I'm going to be the one that's going to change this cycle of incarceration and poverty. Not on my watch. I'm going to stop this so that all my kids and grandkids, their whole trajectory is going to change.
Amen.
And that's powerful. So if you believe that and that's your why, I really believe, if you really believe that, there is nothing that will be in your way. Nothing.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So since you started this job, is there any one particular story that really stands out? Either a story of, somebody facing adversity and really overcoming, or maybe somebody that faced adversity that didn't make it. Like, what would be one?
There was a story that stands out. He was all kind of a character, so I really like this one guy. We were working in Cleveland, and so this was during COVID, and we had first started to work with this individual while he was in prison. And so we did some programming with him, and I think he had been in for over 20 years. He was coming back home to Cleveland, and he wanted to be a truck driver. So when we met him, it was at our Cleveland office, and I remember sitting down with him and talking about what his ambitions were, and he wanted to be a truck driver. And he was probably, I think he was 62 years old at the time.
Wow.
Had a white beard, and we were sitting there talking. And I really had to check myself because I'm like, all right, I'm thinking the pragmatic side of me is like, really? It's going to take you a while. You haven't driven a vehicle in 20 some years.
Right.
And you could technically retire in like 3 years. So
Right.
this is your dream to go do this for maybe a couple, 3 years. But as I looked at him, he was so passionate about it and so serious. I'm like, I'm not going to stop this guy. I'm not going to be the dream crusher on this guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So he was qualified, went through TYRO, got him connected with the training school. He did great. He went through it with flying colors. He was super dedicated. He didn't have transportation. And then there was also a situation where he had lost his housing.
Oh, nice.
And so we helped him get housed. And then we figured out transportation. He actually came up with a solution to get to the trucking school. So this was 6 weeks worth of driving we had to figure out.
Wow.
We helped him with it. And he just didn't quit. And then when he got done, he already had jobs lined up for people. And I think he started out hauling trash
Wow.
because that's a CDL, and that's
Sure.
not what he wanted.
Right.
But he started with that, and then he ended up, I think, being an Amazon driver.
Oh, wow.
And I guess what I liked about him was that it was his dream, and it was realistic, and he was 100% committed to it.
Yeah.
And there was probably 3 or 4 major barriers that were very common, housing, transportation,
Right.
discouragement. And he just it was like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
He just looked at it like, all right, we're going to solve this. And he just kept on cruising.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is awesome.
That's good. And that's one of the things that TYRO teaches. We don't seek accomplishments, right? We accomplish what we seek.
Yeah. Amen.
And that's what I hear you saying about this individual, that he had a mission and a goal, and he was determined to accomplish it.
Yep. 100%. No matter what anybody said,
Yep.
he didn't care. He knew what he was doing. He had his why. He knew exactly why he was doing what he was
He
doing.
knew his why.
And
That's
as far as I know, I mean, that was probably 6 years ago. I think he's still
wow.
driving
Oh,
because he was
that's
healthy and he
awesome.
loved it.
Yeah.
So he's still doing
Yeah.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So I love
really
that
awesome.
story.
And and they keep raising the retirement age, so he's going to have to do it till he's in his 70s now.
right.
It's like
Right.
we're just going to keep trucking here.
Yep.
I'm your coach, Tremaine Hall. We're looking forward to getting you to the next level in where you want to be in fitness. Our whole method is to make you mentally tough and also physically strong. We're going to start with dynamic warm-up, lower core, upper body, and also full body blast. Get ready to take your fitness to the next level with TYRO Fit and Stenos.
In what ways have the people you've had the chance to serve impacted your life? I mean, if you think about those interactions, how are you changed?
It just puts it into perspective. I mean, it's like, the little struggles that I think I have, when I compare them to struggles that I think are bigger than mine, it's just like, who am I to complain about this? I've had life so good. I've had tons of support. I've had tons of opportunities. I've had people rooting for me. I'm not going to complain. My life could be much harder. I've had a lot less to overcome. So to me, it's just a matter of perspective. And then I also get encouraged because when I see the folks that are the success stories, you can't help but to be inspired by it. Anytime somebody has, like, they climb a mountain, it's these insurmountable odds and they achieve it against the odds.
Yeah.
You look at that and you're like, man, if they did that, I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you just kind of get more hope, more faith in humanity. Like, it's a world of possibilities, and it's just out there for you to grab it.
Yeah.
If you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't miss the opportunities.
Yep.
I think about watching you grow here at the Ridge Project, Chuck, and we really appreciate your humility
Yeah.
and your eagerness to learn and want to learn and to pivot.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
To be able to see a situation and maybe we're going in one direction and it's not working, but you're able to pivot quickly to not only accommodate the funders but more importantly to serve
stakeholders,
more importantly to serve the people we called, because they're in their dire straits. They're in their maybe their last hour and mentally, whatever is going through them. So when you think about the power of pivot,
Yep.
right? What do you because we put that on.
And that's
Well, yeah.
never fun, but
Right.
you do it.
And I'm the worst at it
Intentionally.
because I'm like, in my life, like when you're in culinary, it's a very disciplined workplace. It should be. I mean, if you're at a high,
Very
if you're at a high,
process-oriented,
you're
yes.
following recipes. There's structure. There's hierarchy, and you try to create an environment where you eliminate chaos and you eliminate the unexpected.
Oh, okay.
So I felt very comfortable in that. And then I come into Ridge Project. I was like, but it was healthy.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, but I needed that. I mean, to be well-rounded. It caused me to stretch. It caused me to be, okay, you're going to get thrown into something and you got to think on your feet. You don't have to have a plan. Make the plan as you go.
Yeah.
And so that's good. And so that's like resiliency.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that people need to have to be successful. And it's your mindset too. It's like one of my favorite quotes is sometimes the way you can't go around it, you have to go through it.
Ooh, yeah.
And so, you know, you look at your life and it's like, you know, me, if it's somebody with employment and they see all these barriers, well, I don't have the funding, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the transportation, or I don't have the education. No, you just have to weather that storm and you set your mind to it. Be resilient. You have to be opportunistic. You know, you might, which means pivoting all the time. You might have thought you were going to go and get your training at this facility, but guess what? They were on a wait list. You didn't get accepted. Now across town, it opened up over here. So now you got to figure out a different solution.
Yeah.
And it's just, you have to navigate that. But as long as you go into it and say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pivot.
Yeah.
Even if it makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to push through the uncomfort, and I'm going to be solution oriented. We can all be victims and say, woe is me. I can't do this and I can't do that. But you have to be a solution, a problem solver.
Yeah.
And then I would say that you have to think, big picture. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see that trip people up is they want instant gratification. You cannot. There's a time and a place for instant gratification.
Ice
you know?
cream, hamburgers, French fries.
Absolutely. You know, but when you're looking at your life and your career and
Right.
breaking those cycles, that's a longer term,
Sure.
depending on how big your dream is.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're committed to that, you're going to look at your little short-term failures. Really, a failure is just you figured out what didn't work.
Yeah.
So you try something different and you find out what does work. And if you have that mindset and you're patient with yourself and you're dedicated, I mean, really,
Yep.
sky's the limit.
When you say that, I mean, the truth is you practice that in your role as project director.
Right.
Because I've heard you say, and we say, okay, how's the progress? Did you get that launched? And you've said, well, I found 10 things that don't work.
That's so true.
I'm
It
still,
is.
Yep.
It's
still
true.
in the midst of problem solving,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Because you
Yeah.
always make it work. And you're willing to say, okay, this isn't working, cross that one off. Next.
Yeah.
But
next-
I appreciate too, Chuck, watching you have courageous conversations with your staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Sometimes they're uncomfortable, and they had to put you in a place and you had to grow into that. You know what? I have to have serious conversations with the people that are working for me because the buck stops with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and you've had to have those pivoting moments with them, and it's made you a better boss, a better friend, a better leader. Right? So, but I want to take it real quick. We ain't got much time, but before we
Okay.
go, is how has this helped you become a better dad?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you got
Oh,
two wonderful
yeah.
sons.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love your boys.
And
Yeah.
they're
They
awesome.
are awesome. You're going to change the world.
That's a good question. I think it just makes me appreciate my children more, and appreciate my place as a father, and the responsibility and the power, I guess, that I have of influence over my kids. And so I'm more mindful of that, because I think early on, because I had my kids before I started working here, by about 3-4 years. And so, you know, it's very easy when you're a young father and you're, you know, fairly newly married, you're still kind of selfish. And so you're like, I've got these kids. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep, you know, playing games, you know, video games or cards or whatever, or golf. And you don't want to take the time to do that. And then as you get older, and I see, you know, through Ridge Project, how important it is to be a father and how much influence you have. Because I took that for granted, because I just grew up in a house.
Yeah.
There's hardly anybody in my family that's divorced. And that was just kind of like the normal. And so you take it for granted.
Yeah.
And when you see that common pattern of the folks that we get to serve and work with, you realize, man, I cannot take this for granted. I can't be asleep at the wheel. It's not autopilot. I have to be on point every day to be the leader and to kind of set the tone and set goals for my boys.
That's
So
a
I love that. So as we begin to wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity, Chuck, to just speak into the lives of all the viewers. And so this is going, as you know, into institutions across the country.
To men and women.
And men and women, and also on YouTube and being posted on the internet. So if there was, a piece of advice that you would want to give to people about leadership, about living better, about fatherhood, what would it be? Anything.
And if you don't mind, if you would look into that camera
Sure.
and give us your 2 cents.
Yep. It's nothing magical. I think it goes back to know your why, really think through what's important to you and what you want to accomplish and why you're doing what you want to do. So get that very solid and don't ever, ever, ever give up and lose hope. If you have hope and you know your why, you'll be unstoppable.
Awesome, Chuck. Hey, thank you so much for being part of TYRO TV on this episode.
My pleasure. Thank you
We
for
so
letting
appreciate
me
you.
be here.
You are literally changing lives every day, and we just are honored to work alongside you.
So thank you
Glad to have you.
for not throwing in the towel and running away, right? Because I mean, it's tough work, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tough work, and not anybody can do this.
It's important work and it's meaningful work and it matters.
Yeah. Thank you, Chuck. So thank you for allowing us to be part of your journey. And until next time, always remember that we are rooting for you.
My name is Chuck VanRenterghem and I'm a TYRO.